As you can see, I've got the wrong hat on, and so I better put my other hat on, wherever it is. Okay, now the Maori people have a concept of Tapu and Noa, and Tapu is sacred and Noa, it's the other way around, Tapu is sacred, Noa is ordinary, ordinary, sacred, and why I got it the wrong way around is because this is here is Noa, okay, so I've been making videos all morning, it's now 1 o'clock, and I haven't had anything to eat all day. I've drunk a fair amount of coffee, and I'm a bit too high, too sacred. And I can become dangerous if I get too sacred, and if something happens, somebody has an argument with me or something like that, I can become too powerful because I'm too sacred. I'm not ordinary enough, right? And so the Maoris knew that if you ate potato, that was Noa, that made you Noa, okay? So to transform from sacred to Noa, Tapu, Noa, sacred to ordinary. So what I'm going to do is going to eat this pile of Cumberland sausage butties, and that'll be Noa. I'm going to tell you about Noa, Noah's Ark, okay. Well, I don't feel that Noah. Not completely Noah. Why am I laughing? I'm having a conversation with my lady here on the phone, and we're talking about how does the special camera that the East Germans developed during the Cold War, that can photograph through, I think it's got about 8 different lenses, all different colours, filters on them, and it can take a photograph and show the relief of the, very detailed relief of the landscape. So you can map both horizontally and vertically from the aerial photography. So if you look down there with your normal eyes, you just see it will look flat, but they can map it 3-dimensionally from the information that's there, yeah? From these 8 different lenses. I think it's 8, it might be a guess, it might be a different number, I can't remember exactly. And so you can see that, some people can see what other people can't see, depending on the level, the frequency that they look at it at, the detail of frequency there. These cameras are higher frequencies than we can deal with the eyes, with our ordinary eyes. We just look, we can't see this, but they can create an 8-eyed object that can see something that we can't see. Okay. And the Maoris were very tapu, very sacred people, yeah? They're Tohungas. And so what happens when you become sacred, tapu, you're vibrating at a higher frequency. And in different ages, man was given the ability from God and nature to vibrate at higher frequencies where they were allowed to see into the other dimensions, where they could see the ghosts of the dead people around us. Okay? Now, we can't see that anymore because it's not the time for seeing that. The time for seeing that has gone. And man kept the Maoris able to see it for the longest because they were the last natural civilization to be conquered by the great internationalist powers. And so we know from them, from their experience, that they can see, and we can't confirm it with our own eyes because we can't see it. They can see it, and we can confirm, I can confirm from my own experience with them, that they did not seem to be lying about this. There was no point in them lying about it. It was simply a job that they were doing, and so I witnessed that. And you probably can't witness that anymore in New Zealand, because I doubt if anybody like that exists anymore, because that was 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, that I had that experience. And now everybody's just Noah. They've become common. And there is a natural aristocracy in the world. And this is not how rich you are or what family you were born into. That's not what makes you aristocracy in this world. Not now. It might have been in the natural order, that if you were living in complete natural order, you would be born into an aristocratic family. You would be an aristocrat, naturally, because your parents would teach you what they knew, and you would become a little clone of the aristocratic, divine, Tapu parent. Okay. That's not what happened, because at the time that I read about the Maoris after Takuti, the time of Takuti, I read an eyewitness account by a traveller who passed through Aotearoa, New Zealand. And the traveller said that there was a peculiar thing with the people, is that the old men, their physique was different, completely different to the physique of the younger Maori men. Yeah? The ones that were going out had a different, more of a Herculean physique, even though they were old. They were like Hercules, yeah. And the young Maoris coming through, those that were under 50, who had been born after the enslavement, if you like, they were all of a different stature. Now, this wasn't because they had interbred with anybody. This was simply because they become Noah. They were no longer Tapu in the same degree which their forefathers, their parents were. And I've seen this myself, because I've seen this Hercules effect in individual men in this age, because we live in a new age now. And I've seen a man transform into Hercules, not immediately. I see this man has obviously transformed into Hercules. He never always looked like that. And I said to him, "Do you work out this way?" He says, No, just the way I am. He just became Hercules, yeah. He's a great warrior because he's became Tapu, sacred. And God can turn you into one of these great warriors if you live the life of a holy person, sacred person. Okay, you become an aristocrat. That's what an aristocrat looks like. If you become weak and effeminate, this is because you're Noah. You become less than ordinary. Yeah. Now, man used to be able to see into these higher dimensions where the spirits were. I'm just going to read this. Okay, she wants me to talk about the multipolar world order. Okay, and the multipolar world order can only come about if people become sacred again, tapu. And you can see the divinity in a person as a natural aristocracy, and you can see that Vladimir Putin is an aristocrat. He has a natural aristocratic order to his being. He's sacred, he's tapu. The same with the leader of the Chinese people. He's also sacred, tapu. He's a proper aristocrat, appointed by God in the natural order. These Western leaders are not. Yet Donald Trump used to look like that. He used to look like he was sacred. I always thought he was. But somehow he's been turned into Noah by obeying the dark side. Yeah? If somebody tells you what to do, and you say, no, don't tell me what to do, I'll make my own mind up. If you just go along with it, then you become Noah, you lose your sacredness. Yeah? You just lose it completely. So, she says here, for the idea and knowledge of Putin as a wise philosopher. She's onto it, okay. She's working with us. I told her, I can only say what I know, understand perfectly, and I was saying I don't really understand it well enough to tell what she wants me to tell. And he says, yes, you do. Because she knows everything, Elizabeth knows everything, and I have to turn her knowledge into understanding somehow. It's coming to me, it has to come to me. So we have to find it together. Yeah, we have to find it together. I haven't worked any of this stuff out, we're just finding it together. God and God, the sacred together to find the answers. Okay. So she says Putin is a wise philosopher. He is. He's a philosopher, a wise man who has studied many things and has learned a lot in his life and is a good, decent human being. Now, people lie wanted to turn him into some kind of Adolf Hitler type, but that's because they see the enemy, that's what they call the enemy. So he's a great wise philosopher, and he is sacred. His people love him because when you have a wise king in charge of your country, you love that king. And the Russians will also be given the power to be mighty warriors, so that when they fight in battle, they win everybody, win against everybody. You know? And Socrates, he was a great wise man, a wise leader. He used to go barefoot into war in the snow, you know, and it didn't touch him. He was like, he must have been a Herculean type also. And what happens is there's dark sacred nations, and there's light sacred nations, and there's dark Noah nations. Okay, and the Noah nations tend to gather together in packs, wolf packs, the Taniwa, but they're weak, and they cheat. You've got to watch them, they're always cheating, they're stabbing the back, no problem at all. And so you've got to be very careful with the Taniwa. But the Taniwa is under control of God, because the Taniwa is only doing what it's doing because God has decreed that it's his job now. And the Taniwa suffers doing it. but that's its karma. Yeah, it created war, so now it's got to endure war. Yeah? And so the only way that this natural order can return, okay, so that we have the multipolar world order, is that the leaders of the countries transform from Noah into Tapu, into the sacred. The leaders have to be sacred. If your leaders aren't sacred, then the blind is leading the country. And they just lead you into a ditch and you've all fallen together. Yeah, that's what happens. Yet there's no way we can organise. It's already organised. The world is self-organising, and so we have to go with the flow, really. So I just watch the process in the world around me. I understand the parts that the various nations are playing, which are the sacred nations and which are the Noah or ordinary nations. And God is evolving everything into the sacred, because as in the time of Noah, which was the end time for the Watchers became Noah. They got fallen. They'd taken wives, fallen human wives, and they were only supposed to. Angels only supposed to partner with angels. Now they've partnered with ordinary Noah women. And they corrupted their souls, they became Noah, yeah. And in the end they all had to go, and they were taken out in the flood. There's always an end time, yeah. And there was an end time, the time of Jesus, because after Jesus passed on, shortly after that, the whole temple was destroyed and the Jews were wiped out. There's terrible stories about what happened. Terrible things happened to the Jews in Palestine. But after Jesus' time, they were all wiped out. It was a Holocaust, a real one. So God gets rid of what's Noah, and he purifies it, and out of purifying it comes the good. The sacred comes out of it, out of the Noah, comes out of it, yeah. Just like in World War II, my parents lived through World War II. They were just like everybody else who lived through it. Some people died, some people lived. They lived. My mother had an experience just like Elizabeth had, of dying and seeing a tunnel of light and meeting whatever you meet out there and coming back again. And she said after that experience she had no fear of anything after that. So I know that the ladies have this common pathway. And she was a good lady, and they both, her and my father, lived through the war and found each other at the end of the war, next door neighbours. And they partnered together and had a family, and they stayed together the whole of their lives, and they were always faithful to each other. Okay. Even then, it was a rare quality. It was more common in my grandfather's day, of course. People were more sacred, perhaps, in the Victorian age. And you had the aristocracy. The sacred really forms a natural aristocracy. And the Noah, the ones that God made Noah, not the man-made, they form the ordinary people, okay? And you always have that, because these are the people who got into debt, sold their lands, no longer are free peoples. They become Noah, they lose their sacredness. And that's what happened to the Maori people when they lost their lands in New Zealand. They also became Noah, and they turned from Hercules into what they became. Now some of them retained, even now you see some very powerful Maori fellas with the Herculean physique. They're few and far between. and the same in the rest of the world. So we have to come together somehow. The sacred has to come together and understand that it's sacred, understand the difference between ordinary, common and sacred, and respect that is sacred. And if that understanding can come to the world, a little bit at a time, one person at a time, then what can happen is that the world can turn around. And then what is sacred is respected, and what is Noah is just Noah, yeah? Not disrespected, but doesn't have as high a respect as what is sacred. Okay? And it's the same with nature, yeah? You don't turn a beautiful, divine forest, sacred forest, into a mine dump. Yeah? You don't cut all the trees down and sell them to make guitars out of. This sort of thing, to make a fast buck. Yeah? So the human race has to learn this. It's important, and it's the one thing that the Maori's religion or spirituality, what it carried, what I took from the Maoris, the concept of Tapu and Noa, is an important understanding. The last thing they gave, they kept that knowledge, probably from Egyptian times. Everybody else lost it. The Maoris kept it. And they add that to our basket of knowledge that we have from the ancestors. So we should respect them for that. And it's necessary to accept all baskets of wisdom from all the cultures of the world. And this is what the Theosophical Society set out to do in the 1900s. And so the Theosophical Society was created to support the mission of God through and into the Aquarian age, because the last 2,000 years was the Piscean age. Jesus Christ came in the Piscean age, which is the age of the fish, yeah, to guide man through the individual consciousness, into individual consciousness enlightenment. And the Piscean age was just that. Yet the Aquarian age is the group, the age of the group, that the group has to form, the couple and the group. And so man is no longer an individual in consciousness, he's a couple conscious. And from that couple consciousness, he can move to group consciousness. And the group consciousness is simply when the whole group is just one. And they move together as one. And they create great works as one. And that's what the Germans achieved before World War II, and why the rest of the world was so envious of them, because just like the Chinese, they were becoming great, naturally great. They were becoming sacred, like the Chinese are becoming. And it was, their civilization was becoming wealthy. The poor were getting richer. And the rich were doing all right. They weren't filthy rich. You know? And so there needs to be balance. And the rich, to be part of the aristocracy, the rich need to be concerned about the whole community. It's not just personal riches. That's ridiculous that somebody who is Noah is rich. Somebody who's got no sacred tapu nature cannot be rich. Goodness me, you'd have to be a criminal to get rich and be Noah. Or worse than Noah. And so that's the purpose of the end time, is get rid of all this bad Noah. These bad Noah people, they all get wiped out. And sometimes it's a flood, sometimes it's a fire. The fire is the war. That's what you see in Ukraine. Ukraine is getting the fire now, and Israel is getting the fire, and Iran's got the fire, and we have yet to see America get the fire, but it's already had the water on both west and east coasts. And so it's a bit of a warning to America, and it is their end time, yeah. They started to beat their head against the other nations of the world, the multipolar order, the BRICS nations, and they should be bowing their head down and say, please let us join your group BRICS and we'll all be part of the multipolar order. And until they become the word's not coming to me. What do the Americans have to become? Humble. That's the opposite of thinking you're the master race. You have to become humble. You're just an individual human being like everybody else. Stop worshipping the God of Israel and start to worship the divine in nature. The divine in nature is the one God. One God. Not the Bible. The Bible is just an ancient book full of error, out of date, and meant for a completely different age, the Piscean age. And before the Piscean age, there was what, the age of the Aquarius, the Aries, the age of Aries. I can't remember. My lady would know. She's more of an astrologer than I am. Now all the sciences are valid. Astrology is just as valid as astronomy. In fact, astronomy comes from astrology, and it's very poor show to not revere the learned ancestors of astrology if you're an astronomer. Disregard what they've discovered. It's time to stop because the battery's running out. I'm sure of it. Yeah, it's gone. As you can see, I got a bit too Noah, so I ended up going in the other direction. This will make you more Tapu. Chocolate and coffee. Here's the coffee. All we need is a cup. Oh, we have a little bit of lemonade here. Left. I should really wash my cup if I want it to be extra Tapu. When I was in Africa with the Islamic people, the Muslims, I enjoyed drinking their chai. It's like a tea ceremony that they have. It's very sweet. It's more like coffee than tea that we have here in the West. Yet it's superior. It's in small glasses, like very small glasses, and they pour it in a special way like this. and they aerate it. They add air to it, which is a marvelous thing. This has air in it, aerated soda water. There's also very tapu and aerated chai, superior to coffee actually. I don't drink it here because we don't have this tradition here in the UK, so we stick to our tradition. We have the tradition wherever we are. We should adapt ourselves to the traditions. And when I was in a Muslim country, I'm wearing, their dresses, long dresses down to my ankles, and little white hat, and so I'm just dressed the same as they are. And when I'm here, I'm just like I am here. So there's no need to be precious. I misused that word the other day. There's no need to be precious, but that's I needed that word about what we dress, how we dress, what we wear. So where do we go from here? Krishnamurti came to teach us about the group. Jesus Christ came to teach us about the salvation of the individual. Krishnamurti came to teach us about the salvation of the group, and that is that you cannot organize anything. Everything has to be self-organizing, free to organize itself. And you can't create organizations. All organizations are false, creations of fallen man. Now I use the term fallen and demonic and angelic for Noah and Tapu and common. That's what those are the terms that I use. So I'll probably stick with those now. To find the angelic group, the true human group, we have to allow it to form around us. We have to be in cooperation with everybody around us. And we have to really ignore and take no notice of these fake organizations. We should have nothing to do with them. And Jesus' teaching when he came 2,000 years ago was to come out of the world. Don't have anything to do with the evil in the world. And there's evil individuals and fallen individuals, and there are evil groups and fallen groups. And the angelic groups are those groups which are self-organizing, and they admit everybody freely. They've got no bars to entry. They're just happening automatically. Yeah. And so, for example, tomorrow I have a couple of mates here, and we've all got motorcycles, and what we do is we keep each other informed of what we know about what's going on in the world, if anything comes up, because you have to know about stuff if you're going to be part of it. So the other day, yesterday or the day before, George sent me a message to say, let me get it. Oh no, I can't, the phone is charging. George said, there's a barbecue on, it's free, and it's they've had it before, and it's a group of motorcyclists, and it's just an opportunity to go there, have a free barbecue, and display your motorcycle. And the guy that's doing it just likes to look at motorcycles. That's what it is. It's a gathering, free gathering of motorcycles. And he said to me, That's tomorrow. And he says, can I tell Steve? So I forwarded on to Steve, and Steve said, message back saying, yeah, it sounds like a good idea. So it's not firm, we haven't sort of made a sworn an oath to say we're going to go to this thing. Yet tomorrow we'll find ourselves gathering, whoever's ready for it, whoever's up for it, will be riding off down the road together tomorrow, and we'll end up at this group gathering, and it's just naturally gathering by itself. There's no organisation. I haven't been invited by whoever's having it. It's just the word has come out, and we're all going to arrive. Now that's how they used to, in the old Celtic days of the Celts, how they used to get together for their parliaments, their meetings of the people. What they do is, the holy man, the Tohunga, the Druid, he would start to get a message from the divine, it's thinking that it must be time to gather. It's time to gather. And then he'd meet another Druid, say, yeah, he also feels it's time to gather. They'd all get the same idea. We need to gather, and someone would say, oh, I think we need to gather at a certain place, the White Horse or something like that. And so they'd, or Avebury or somewhere, yeah, they decide where they're going to gather, or Glastonbury Tor or something, depending on the size. And so what would happen is people would just start to drift in that direction, and for maybe a week or so before, nobody knows the exact date, because it's not like time is not the same, it's eternity we live in. People start to gather, and then there's no, on this particular time we will start. It's like, when do the people all feel simultaneously to stand up and go together? So they're all gathered, more people are coming all the time, and at some point the people already there decide simultaneously, now's the time. And they all get up and they come together like cows do, you know, they all stand up and move together, they'll sit down, because cows are in the natural order, they're one spirit, yeah. But humans are not, we're all fallen. But when we become one spirit, then we all move as one. So that's the difference really between the natural group and the natural nation. Consciousness of the nation. National consciousness. It's the next level after group consciousness. So I have noticed, just on that note of how people used to gather, that Steve and I, also George, we all move at the same time. And so if I'm meant to meet Steve, I'll walk out my door as he's walking out of his door, and we'll go, oh, I see you. I think that's what the Avatar people say when they see you. They say, I see you, something like that. Because this man who did Avatar, the movie, he's a visionary, you know. He's a bit of a prophet. The prophets see the future, they see things, and they make movies about it, yeah. And you can see Terminator 2 isn't too far away. We've already got drones. And that was many decades ago, Terminator 2, wasn't it? And now it's already here. If we don't want to end up like Terminator 2, we need to get into the multipolar world order. Yeah? And so we need to get rid of our fallen and demonic leaders and replace them with angelic, divine people who natural leaders of the people. You could make George Galloway the king. I'd be quite happy with that. And we need to get rid of these fake organisations. The media has been replaced now by natural order of media presenters that aren't owned by anybody. So what we've got to do is we've got to get rid of all ownership of everything. You can still own stuff that you own, but ownership of businesses, of companies. The stock exchange needs to go. It needs to be, you cannot, or it needs to be changed, so you cannot buy and sell. Individuals can't buy and sell other companies, entire companies of individuals. It's just destroying everything, yeah? Destroying everything. Anybody who's any good just gets gobbled up, gets sold, and somebody who wants to take the company out takes it out and just abuses it, you know? What happens to the workers then? And they may open factories in some foreign country and make all the workers redundant. It's no good, can't do that. That's why we've got into the problem that we've got. You would never have General Motors making cars in China if General Motors was owned by the people who work in General Motors. And they are the natural shareholders of the company. And they should be the shareholders. In fact, that Varoufakis guy, I can't remember his full name, the Greek guy who was the finance minister, he's got some good ideas about that, about converting companies so that their shareholding is owned by the employees or owned by the people working it, and when they leave and new people come in, the shares are transferred one to the other. Maybe the individual sells his shares to somebody else coming in, or swaps them for some other shares. I don't know. Maybe don't even do that. I just don't know. You don't need to know. It can just evolve naturally. If you've got good intentions, the right answer will come. But if you're trying to make money for nothing and your chicks for free, it's not going to work out. It's going to end up in slavery, right? Because somebody's got to do the work. And you don't want your chicks for free prostitutes. What's that all about? What you want is a divine, free lady, your divine partner, by your side. And so the Aquarian age is the age of the couple. And that's what I'm here to inaugurate, is the new age of the divine couple. Krishnamurti was here to inaugurate the age of the group, the whole age of the group. It's a greater thing than me. And before him, Rudolf Steiner, he was a herald of the new epoch. Rudolf Steiner was here to go, "Dee, dee, dee, look what's coming." Also the Theosophical Society, C.W.Leadbeater, "Dee, dee, dee, look at the future." And their vision was for the next 2,000 years. It wasn't for the next few hundred years. And my work is for the next few hundred years. But these guys, Steiner is for the whole age of Aquarius. Yeah? And C.W.Leadbeater and the Theosophical Society, that is an idea where man is going to end up when he does become divine couples, and he'll get all these extra powers of clairvoyance, perhaps, will be given back to him at the end of the age, but not till he becomes virtuous and deserves it and needs it, because right now he needs to be fighting his battles in the reality, not against the evil spirits in the world. Yet that will come. Thanks for watching.